Chapter 51. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Pretending to be a cultivator translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Whether it was the heavenly silkworm potato strips or the bloody hell tomatoes. These names, as always, conveyed the violent nature of Mother Wan's domineering temperament. However, today's dishes seemed fairly normal, so everyone breathed sighs of relief in their hearts. When Old Antique picked up a tomato slice with his chopsticks, Mother Wan immediately took out the seasoning bag she carried to pour 3 spoons of sugar on it, and then she beamed at Old Antique. 3 spoons of sugar with the bloody hell tomato makes it even better. Everyone. After eating Mother Wan's love bentos, everyone escorted her to the school gate and waved goodbye to her in the breeze. Though the taste of the love bentos was still so strange, they were still very touched by her good intentions. After checking numbers and discovering that 6 people had not been accounted for, this old auntie had immediately remembered the group of number 60 high school students that was attending the exchange meet for 2 schools, and so had arrived travel-stained to deliver the love bentos that could only be eaten on Fridays. It was worth mentioning that Mother Wan would count precisely how many bentos she needed to make, no more and no less. No one else in number 60 high school could do that except for her. This old auntie, who had been head cook at number 60 high school for hundreds of years, truly had every student and every teacher in her heart. Goodbye, students. For tomorrow's Spirit Sword Exchange meet, if I have the opportunity, I'll come again. Kiss. Mother Wan waved to everyone, blew them a kiss which made them shudder, then stepped onto her Louis Vuitton flying sword and vanished into the distance. On the eve of the Spirit Sword Exchange meet, a lot more things out of the ordinary seemed to be cropping up. Just as Mother Wan left, both of Wan Ling's eyelids began to twitch. Disaster level, 2 stars. He could roughly guess what was about to happen. The Tao talisman seal on his arm was about to expire. Looking at the time frame, it wasn't difficult to figure out. It was very obvious, that guy was coming. That hateful guy whom Mother Wang had contacted previously. From a young age, Wang Ming had always been a huge headache for Wang Ling. Although Wang Ming's identity had been classified as a state secret and he was always lavished with praise for his brain, which was deemed an existence more terrifying than any divine weapon, Wang Ling's impression of his cousin still centered around those 90.9 stupid challenges. Bluntly speaking, this guy was a dumbass. Furthermore, this idiocy was also reflected in various other ways. Of all the stupid things that he did, the one he most enjoyed doing and never grew tired of was to disguise himself as a cultivator. It was 4:30 in the afternoon on Thursday. School had let out on time at number 59 high school. Students walked out of the teaching building and exited the school gate in 2s or 3s. At this point in time, a man was standing at the school gate. He was dressed in rough linen and had neatly trimmed, thick black hair. The man carried a long sword weighing 100 Gene on his back, like a seasoned practitioner who had wandered the world over. Unfortunately, this attire and temperament didn't really match, so people with a higher spiritual realm would immediately know. This was a muggle with no spirit energy whatsoever. Every cultivator possessed an essence in their being which came from nature, it formed in a person's dantian region and flowed through the body's meridians. This essence could gradually change a person's inner temperament and then move outward to make a person's countenance dazzle with radiance and their steps become light as wind. The body of a true cultivator could even emit a faint fragrance. Standing at the gate of number 59 high school, Wang Ming secretly sighed in his heart. He was young and had potential, was handsome and talented. But being talented was not a replacement for practice. He had realized at a very young age that he couldn't cultivate because of his physique. It was for this reason that he had devoted all his energy to scientific research. Looking eagerly at the Foundation Establishment high school students that passed him by, his eyes couldn't help revealing a little envy. If it wasn't because of his physique, with his own natural talent at cultivation, someone as insignificant as Wang Ling would be no match for him at all. Such were Wang Ming's self-pitying thoughts in his heart. Are you looking for someone, sir? Number 59 High School's old guard approached him a little warily. With the Spirit Sword Exchange meet happening tomorrow, Number 59 High School's on-campus personnel had increased their vigilance against suspicious people. Even guardians or family members entering the school had to inform a teacher in advance, and only after the teacher gave the school guard office approval would they be allowed to enter. But this man had been standing and sighing at the school gate for 20 minutes, which the old school guard thought was a little strange. Wang Ming looked at the old uncle and shook himself to clear his head. Hello, fellow cultivator, I'm here to look for someone. Being called a fellow cultivator made the old uncle feel somewhat decrepit. He carefully looked Wang Ming up and down again. You are a guardian. He was also a cultivator. His realm wasn't too high, but he was still capable of detecting the essence of a cultivator. Only great men who possessed exceptional realms would call each other fellow cultivators. The old uncle stared at Wang Ming's face for a long time, but no matter how much he looked, he felt this person wasn't anything special. Conversely, the more he looked, the more suspicious he became. Yes, I'm a guardian. I'm looking for someone. According to seniority in the family, Wang Ming figured he was, after all, an older brother. He was 6 whole years older than Wang Ling. There was nothing wrong with saying he was a guardian, so he nodded. Whose guardian are you? Which class is the student in? I'm looking for number 60 High School's Wang Ling. He's participating in the exchange meet on behalf of his school. The old uncle instantly understood that it was that group of people. However, he still had doubts about Wang Ming's identity as a guardian. Shouldn't the guardian of a foundation establishment student have reached the golden core stage at the very least? Most of the teachers in the school were at the golden core stage, so the old uncle often encountered such people and hence could identify such an aura. It was very obvious that this man had no spirit energy whatsoever. Considering the recent incident with the notorious shadow stream at number 60 High School, he couldn't help but wonder. Over the past 2 days, the higher.UPS had issued clear orders to take precautions for fear that Shadow Stream would take advantage of the Spirit Sword Exchange meet to retaliate. Now, people who wished to enter number 59 High School were strictly examined, and expert overseers as well as patrol personnel had been arranged one after another as security inside the school. To be honest, the old uncle didn't think Shadow Stream would have the guts to brazenly infiltrate the school. However, this young man pretending to be a cultivator had succeeded in attracting his attention. The old guard had retired from the Cultivation Police's Criminal Investigation Department a few years ago. Based on his years of experience, he now had reason to be suspicious. It was possible that the young man before him was a spy that had been dispatched to try and infiltrate the school. Chapter 52 You are listening at Novel Full.audio. An official counterfeit is the most deadly translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. At the moment, however, the old uncle didn't have any evidence to disprove Wang Ming's claim that he was a cultivator. Today's society was a lawful one where evidence was required in all things. After many years in the Criminal Investigation Department, this was naturally something that he understood. After ruminating for a moment, he stretched out his hand to Wang Ming. Sir, lend me your ID card for a bit. If you are a guardian, our school has to verify your identity. Wang Ming didn't think much of it and straightaway took out his ID card from his pocket. With the ID card in hand, the old uncle turned back to the guard room to retrieve a portable card scanner and insert the ID card into it. In order to make sure that the Spirit Sword Exchange meet between the two schools would proceed smoothly, number 59 High School had been on alert these 2 days. This portable scanner was used to inspect suspicious characters. Usually, it was only taken out during the college entrance examination. The ID card only needed to be inserted into it for the scanner to instantly verify what was true and what was false. This old uncle, who was a veteran criminal investigator, thought that if this person had really been dispatched by criminal elements, his ID card most likely wouldn't be genuine. It had to be said that the old uncle's deductive reasoning was truly spot on. Wang Ming's ID card was indeed fake, but it had been made by Huaxiao Nation's Cultivation Academy of Science. An official counterfeit was the most deadly of all. Wang Ming's identity had always been a state secret protected by Huaxiao Nation. No one could get any real information on him. All the information on this fake ID card, for example, was basically all false except for his age. What place of birth, what ID card number, even the profile image had been filtered and touched up. This could be considered special treatment for the youngest academic in the history of Huaxiao Nation. Forget this single old school guard, even if the cultivation police personally came to investigate him, he had no reason to be nervous. Finally, as Wang Ming had expected, the ID card passed the card scanner's inspection without a hitch. Like a POS machine issuing an invoice, the card scanner printed out a long list, startling the old school guard when he saw it. Name: Wang Xiao. Gender: male. Age: 22. Place of birth: Xiangxishuij in Yunding Heavenly Palace, Tianba City, Huaxiao Nation. Character experience: Wang Xiao is from a poor family, but has unique talent and is a very rare existence on the whole of the cultivation continent. He has a little sister called Wang Xiaohua, though it's a pity they are not biological siblings. The places he frequents most commonly are auction houses and underground transaction venues. He is known to have a close female confidant who was born with an evil spirit inside her and isn't capable of taking care of herself. At the age of 16, he wasn't careful and lost his virginity to the legendary demoness Medusa. The above information has been verified by the National Cultivation Police Department of Huaxiao Nation. This was such unrealistic character experience, it made the old uncle loudly shout F*****Ku in his heart. This description was more F****King mysterious than the ones in online novels. However, the most inconceivable thing for the old uncle was that this weird and mystical description had actually been verified by the cultivation police. Surely some damn py.trade. Must have happened behind the scenes. This unreliable biography had in fact been written by Wang Ming himself. Back then, the president of the Cultivation Academy of Science had repeatedly asked him to revise it. But in the end, he hadn't been able to win against Wang Ming's persistence. Wang Ming had always regretted the fact that he couldn't cultivate despite being a genius, so he took these sorts of details very seriously. He was not a cultivator, but he wanted to pretend to be one no matter what. He had to have whatever other cultivators had. The biography of the character on his ID card was based on summaries of cultivation novels which he had read. No matter how inconceivable it appeared, at least he was very satisfied with it. And as for the long sword weighing 100 jin on his back, it was a real immortal sword. He had named the heavy sword Xuanzhong. Although he didn't have spirit energy to control it, he still braced himself to carry it with him wherever he went. To sum everything up in one sentence, Wang Ming tended to bite off more than he could chew and liked to go all out in acting pretentiously. This was also the reason why Wang Ling detested him. Wang Ming's idiocy was reflected in many aspects. It definitely wasn't just Wang Ling who felt this way. With his watertight ID card, Wang Ming entered number 59 high school as planned. However, instead of looking for Wang Ling, he turned to enter the woods by the tree-lined path. Finding a corner with no one around, he put down the long sword he had been carrying. The instant the immortal sword touched the ground, it created a shallow grassy indentation in the lawn. Damn it, this sword was too heavy. His forehead was covered with sweat. An immortal sword weighing 100 jin was like a toy in the hands of any Foundation establishment cultivator. But Wang Ming was an ordinary person, and he had been carrying the sword for so long that he felt that he would dislocate his shoulder if he didn't take a break. I should pass the Dao talisman to Wang Ling as soon as possible. Despite his posturing, he actually hadn't forgotten his current task. Coming here with the Dao talisman was his mission first and foremost. After all, it currently was the only way to rein in Wang Ling's strength. He had to pass it to Wang Ling before the present Tao talisman expired. Otherwise, it would be a crisis for all mankind. Thinking about this, Wang Ming decided to set out, but just as he was about to lift his Xuanzhong sword, he saw a pretty girl in the number 59 high school uniform slowly walking toward him from afar. This was a tall girl, and even number 59 high school's ugly uniform was unable to take away from her pretty face. From her slightly open school uniform jacket, Wang Ming could even faintly see her sexy collarbone, and underneath it, those plump. Bloody hell. She was a black long dot straight. And also a 36D. Excited, Wang Ming gasped and instantly lifted that 100 Jin Xuanzhong sword off the ground like it was nothing and placed it on his back. Obviously, the hormones that his adrenal glands were secreting like crazy had numbed his sensory nerves. Originally, he had had to squat a little in order to lift the sword and place it on his back. Now, it didn't require the slightest bit of effort to pick it up with just one hand. "Hello, excuse me. Can you do me a favor?" The maiden with long hair came over, her head lowered a little shyly. The sound of her voice was too beautiful, like the clear chime of wind bells, and it made Wang Ming feel relaxed and happy in his heart. He had been confined to the research institute for really too long. This time, it hadn't been easy for him to take 2 days off to deliver the Tao talisman to Wang Ling. He had never imagined that luck in love would be waiting for him here. He looked at the maiden and his imagination instantly started to run wild. He couldn't even feel the weight of the Xuanzhong sword on his back anymore. "Of course. No problem. What can I help you with?" As a gentleman, Wang Ming felt that he really had no reason to refuse a beauty's request. "Well, when I was training in the gym, I accidentally thrust my sword into a rock, and I can't pull it out. Now my teacher's about to finish for the day. Can you help me?" As the girl spoke, she stretched out white and slender fingers to Wang Ming. "Let's get to know each other better. My name is Jiang Luying." Chapter 53. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Elder sister, you may not believe me. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. When a tall, pretty maiden with a beautiful figure sweetly reached out for help, undoubtedly the vast majority of men wouldn't refuse to do so. While there didn't seem to be anything wrong with her words at first, a cultivation school student would definitely sense something wasn't right. First of all, it was impossible for a spirit sword to get stuck in stone unless it was the Dashan stone. Otherwise, spirit swords would cut through ordinary stone like soft tofu. Furthermore, Foundation Establishment high school gyms were not open all day, and given number 59 high school's heavily guarded state in particular in the last 2 days, anyone who wanted to use the gym had to apply to do so in advance. The gym would only be open during these periods and closed at all other times. The reason for this was that the gym's locker room was a surveillance blind spot. There was a high probability that criminal elements might take advantage of this weakness. Number 59 high school's school authorities had already tried almost everything they could think of to increase security. However, against an extraordinary opponent, there was nothing anyone could do about it. Wang Ming thought that his springtime had arrived. Floating on air, he followed his attraction to the girl to the gym, but was taken aback when he realized that the main doors were locked and that the gym had already long been closed. His feverish mind finally cooled down at this scene, and the most powerful brain in Huaxiao Nation began to feel that something was wrong. At this time, the girl who had been walking in front also stopped. Turning around slightly, she gave Wang Ming a sly smile. "The front doors are locked. Classmate Jiang, why don't you wait till tomorrow's class to ask your teacher to help you?" Her smile was strange enough to terrify Wang Ming. He wasn't a fool. Officially acknowledged as the strongest research mind by Huaxiao Nation, he could still read people at the most basic level even if his cultivation knowledge was limited to those ridiculous cultivation novels, and his intuition was telling him there was something very wrong with this girl's smile. "Mr. Wang Shower." "Oh, no, it would be more proper for me to call you Mr. Wang Ming, right?" The most powerful brain acknowledged by the Huaxiao government. The young girl squinted, the smile on her face remaining unchanged. We had a hard time finding you. Wang Ming was stunned at her words. His identity was a closely guarded secret. To outsiders, he was just Wang Shaoer. Wang Shaoer who lived in Xiangxishuich in Yunding Heavenly Palace, Tianba City. He felt his blood freeze. Who on earth are you? At this time, his brain cells started to spin quickly. Jiang Luiying. Somehow, he felt the name was familiar. Luiying. Luiying. Shadow, Stream, Wang Ming instantly stiffened. This girl was a member of Shadow Stream. It appears that something has occurred to our most powerful brain. The girl shrugged off her jacket with a smile to display the gold ribbon tied around her arm, once again unnerving Wang Ming. A Shadow Stream gold ribbon assassin. This wasn't just an expert among assassins, but an expert among experts. Moreover, apart from displaying her rank as a Shadow Stream gold ribbon expert, the gold ribbon was also a symbol of her position as a senior executive of Shadow Stream. Wang Ming remembered once reading classified information put together by the Research Institute. Of the top 5 killers on the current international list of killers, Shadow Stream gold ribbon assassins held the 2nd to 5th spots. As for the legendary codenamed Teacher Killer, who was ranked first, international intelligence agencies had so far been unable to obtain precise information on this number 1 killer in the world. But at the moment, all of this was unimportant. The most crucial point was that Shadow Stream had unexpectedly started to take action again. The Spirit Sword Exchange meet between the two schools was going to be held soon. Needless to say, Wang Ming knew that this group of people likely wanted to stir things up again, although he didn't feel that they could create any kind of waves with their efforts. After all, Wang Ling was here. In an extremely short span of time, Wang Ming swiftly combed through his thoughts, then looked at the girl and spoke. Your real goal isn't me, is it? Seeing the girl's lack of response, he said again, your goal is revenge. Did I guess right? Trying to kidnap me, the most powerful brain in Huaxiao Nation, to use me as a bargaining chip and hijack the exchange meet between the two schools tomorrow. Jiang Luiying smiled faintly. Let's just say you're right. However, didn't you consider that even if you found out who I am, my identity is still unknown to everyone else? In their eyes, you've just kidnapped an ordinary person worth nothing. After determining that the girl wouldn't hurt him for the time being, Wang Ming began to calm down. Well then, what if we expose your real identity? This reply surprised Wang Ming. How does that benefit you at all? As long as it's unfavorable for you, it's an advantage for our Shadow Stream. Even now, when we think about it, it's still inconceivable that the red ribbon assassins that we had painstakingly groomed all died in such a shoddy school. The leaders of the two schools will attend the Spirit Sword Exchange meet tomorrow. Which means that all the experts will be present. F***K. Are you planning to kill them all in one go? Wang Ming was shocked. What's there to be shocked about? Why not? It's just 2 ordinary high schools. According to our intelligence, isn't the most powerful expert who will be present tomorrow only at the peak late golden core stage? I can squeeze someone with that level of power to death with one hand. The girl smiled sinisterly, revealing her little canine teeth. Wang Ming. First of all, putting aside whether or not she would be able to squeeze Wang Ling to death. Based on the results when Shadow Stream had dispatched Red Ribbon assassins last time, ending in their total elimination, he felt that Shadow Stream's executive management obviously hadn't learned their lesson at all. In other words, they didn't know what kind of enemy they were facing at all. That was Wang Ling. If his power couldn't be controlled one of these days, he would be an existence that even Wang Ming would be afraid of. Miss, I urge you to give up on this idea immediately and go home early, your mom is calling you to go back for dinner. Wang Ming advised her earnestly. In this world, there actually was someone even more idiotic than him. He really couldn't understand why such a cute, beautiful girl wanted to get herself killed so badly. That won't do. It was very clear that the girl had hardened her resolve. We've been preparing a very long time for this revenge operation. As she spoke, the girl waved her hand and spirit light suddenly appeared at her fingertips, instantly creating a hexagonal crystal which floated in her palm. You should be familiar with this thing, right? So you were the ones who stole the Netherstone from the Research Institute. Wang Ming stared wide-eyed. He was indeed very familiar with this object. This was a magic weapon that was still in development. The base of this magic weapon had been combined with modern space technology, it incorporated cultivation arts and black technology and was still in the testing stage. The power of this magic weapon not only enabled someone to teleport numerous times up to a distance of 200 meters, they could also hide their aura in another dimension so that spiritual senses wouldn't be able to detect them. But such a valuable asset, fused with modern black technology, had recently been brazenly stolen from the Research Institute, and the Huaxiao Academy of Science had been urgently investigating the incident. Wang Ming had never expected the Netherstone to fall into the hands of Shadow Stream. For this bunch of assassins, who killed without batting an eye, to have obtained the power of the Netherstone. This was completely unimaginable. The young girl placed one hand on Wang Ming's shoulder, the other skillfully manipulating the Netherstone. He was disoriented for just a moment, and when he came to his senses, he found himself already in the gym's locker room. We'll have to trouble our most powerful brain to stay here for the night before the Spirit Sword Exchange meet tomorrow. May I ask, what time is it, please? It's almost 6 o'clock. F***K. Is it 6 o'clock already? Wang Ming's eyes widened with alarm. He still hadn't delivered the new version of the Tao Talisman to Wang Ling. After a simple calculation, he deduced that there already wasn't much time left before Wang Ling's old version of the Tao Talisman completely expired. Why, your mother wants you back for dinner. Seeing Wang Ming's panic-stricken face, Jiang Luiying couldn't help smiling sweetly. After thinking calmly for a moment, Wang Ming answered seriously, "Elder sister, you may not believe me, but if you don't let me go, the earth may be destroyed." Chapter 54. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A Brainless Kidnapper Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. It took Jiang Luiying about half a minute to absorb what Wang Ming was saying. She then pinched his chin and carefully scrutinized him. Only after she had once again confirmed that this man hadn't altered his appearance or wasn't an illusion and was the genuine Wang Ming himself did she breathe a sigh. As Wang Ling's cousin, Wang Ming was actually similar to him in some ways. So long as Wang Ming gave up on disguising himself as a veteran cultivator, Wang Ling thought that this guy could still tentatively be considered pretty cool. However, the difference between them was that he had never been the narcissistic type, while Wang Ming could look in the mirror all day long and fangirl over himself. The Scientific Research Institute had replaced anything that could reflect his image in order to stop him from becoming distracted while conducting his research. He was a dumbass, and this idiocy was reflected in various aspects, narcissism being the most obvious. Do you know, this is the first time in my life that a girl is pinching my chin. Wang Ming was a little unsettled at being stared at for so long by a beautiful girl pinching his chin with her delicate fingers. But elder sister, now is not the time for flirting. I advise you to let me go in 3 minutes, otherwise, the whole planet is finished. At that time, forget your revenge, you might not even be able to find your own ashes. Who the F***K is flirting with you? Jiang Luiying couldn't help swearing, so angry that even her big 36D boobs shook. She didn't speak for a very long time after that. She seriously suspected that she might have actually kidnapped the wrong person. She hadn't kidnapped the most powerful brain, but the most powerful retard. After pondering for a moment, Jiang Luiying suddenly thought of something. Given Wang Ming's current status, plus the pressure at work. Possibly. There was something wrong with his brain. People in the field of scientific research tended to be highly unorthodox in their thinking, and were the most likely to become delusional. After muttering to herself for a bit, she crouched down halfway to say to Wang Ming, "My apologies, my tone wasn't very nice just now. I need to confirm something with you." As a qualified kidnapper, it was absolutely vital that she pay attention to the psychological health of the hostages. It wouldn't be good otherwise if they went crazy before they could be used. Moreover, this was a hostage suffering from delusions, so there was a risk that he might kill himself. "What is it?" Wang Ming dodged around her and retreated to a small corner of the locker room. "Are you delusional?" "To put it simply, it means a problem with the brain." "It's your own damn brain that has the problem. Stop pretending, I get it." Jiang Luiying cupped her chin and looked at Wang Ming with a calm and composed air. "I have some background in basic psychology. Given the extent of your delusions, fantasizing constantly about the destruction of the earth, this is obviously beyond recovery. You should pay attention to this. Doesn't the Cultivation Academy of Science care? You need love. The earth being destroyed is true, if you don't let me go. See, you're having another episode." Jiang Luiying rubbed Wang Ming's head. "Relax, our shadow stream assassins are very dedicated. In order to ensure our hostages' worth, we absolutely won't allow any harm to come to them physically or mentally before they can be of use to us." Saying this, she grasped Wang Ming's hand tightly. "Believe me, I will cure you." Wang Ming already completely had no idea what to say. "How about this, to show my good faith? Let me give you a love hug first." As soon as the girl finished speaking, Wang Ming felt two arms wrap around him forcefully. And then, two incomparably massive shadows bore down on him like the weight of Mount Tai, flattening his face. Wang Ming. Damn it. These two things were really too big. He couldn't breathe at all. The girl held Wang Ming for 2 whole minutes before letting go, and was startled to find that he had passed out, 2 red streams of blood gushing out of his nose. At that moment, she felt that the situation was really dire, and immediately made a phone call with her wristwatch. "Sis, I've caught the person. But this man. There seems to be something wrong with his brain. From my initial assessment, he suffers from severe delusions. I just gave him emergency treatment, but I didn't expect him to actually get a nosebleed." The voice on the other end of the phone was cold yet sweet. "How did you treat him?" "Of course I gave him a love hug. This kind of serious mental illness needs humane care." The woman on the other end of the phone sighed clearly. "I understand." "Understand what, sis? It's not his brain that has the problem. It's yours." Wang Ling stood at the entrance to the school dormitory of number 59 high school, his gaze deep as he stared into the distance and his eyelid twitching at a steady rate. So far it had already been more than 5 minutes. The disaster level had risen directly from 2 stars to 3 stars. Looking at the current situation, it didn't look like this disaster warning was going to stop there. He could roughly guess what this warning was about. The old version of the Dao Talisman seal was about to expire. He only had 1 hour at the most before the seal failed completely. But there was still no trace of Wang Ming. Wang Ling closed his eyes and released his spiritual senses to try and get a hold of Wang Ming's aura, but found nothing. He had clearly felt Wang Ming's aura some time ago, and had known the moment when he had entered No. 59 High School's front gate. Assuming that he would be arriving soon, Wang Ling had waited at the entrance to the school dormitory. But strangely, when he had tried to track Wang Ming's aura again, he found that it had disappeared. As if he had vanished off the face of the earth. Of course, if his power was completely unsealed, he would be able to instantly track down Wang Ming's aura no matter where he was. But by that time, it would be too late. This hateful fellow. Had something really happened to him? Wang Ling stared into thin air and frowned with some annoyance. Clearly, some misfortune had befallen Wang Ming. Furthermore, it was very likely that his aura was being blocked by some magic weapon. Although Wang Ling didn't know where Wang Ming was exactly, he was certain that Wang Ming hadn't left and was definitely still in number 59 high school. Since he couldn't use his spiritual senses to track Wang Ming's aura, he could now think of only one other way. Wang Ling walked into the shadow of a small tree where no one was around. A pair of cat ears popped up on his head, and then his whole body shrunk as he transformed into a black and white Persian cat. At this critical moment, the first thing he had thought of was the group of stray kittens in number 59 high school's Sakura forest. To find Wang Ming quickly and decisively within a short period of time, Wang Ling felt the only thing he could do now was mobilize the strength of this special horde. Chapter 55. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Immortal Meow Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Anytime Wang Ling encountered trouble at school, his first thought wasn't to look for help from other students or teachers. While admittedly it was partly because he was a bit of a tsundere, it was actually more that he was just not used to it. He wasn't used to asking other people to do something for him. He was accustomed to being alone, and even when he encountered problems, he always quietly solved them himself. For him, seeking help from other students or teachers wasn't something he had ever considered. Of course, in an emergency like this, he would sometimes mobilize a special kind of horde. They could be the bees that buzzed among the flowers, the little ants that could get into everything, or the stray cats that roamed the school grounds. In any case, the hordes which Wang Ling mustered were never human. Actually, whether it was bees or ants, they had their limitations. Though abundant in number, they were restricted by their low spirit intelligence, so Wang Ling had difficulty controlling them. However melodious your zither, it was no use if you were playing to a cow. So the stray cats that gathered in twos and threes in the school were to date part of perhaps the most skillful group that Wang Ling had ever developed. For all stray cats, apart from foraging, sleeping, basking in the sun and generally living mundane lives all day every day, another critical thing they needed to do was find themselves a proper organization and grow up healthy under the care of their leaders. After experiencing life as vagabonds for a while, all stray cats would finally realize the tragic fact that there was no shoveling officer willing to take them in. They thus had to drop their little tsundere attitudes and envelop themselves in the warmth of a group of other cats with similar experiences. Nowadays, a stray cat that didn't belong to any organization couldn't even get a piece of dried salted fish. Such was the cruel truth of cat society. As a result, while most stray cats appeared unruly, they were in fact strictly disciplined. They went out for a stroll at a set time and returned to the secret base at a set time, so that any malefactors that may be lurking in the dark would have no opportunity to hurt them. In summary, this group of stray cats, without the protection of shoveling officers, was in fact very united. The stray cats of Peiyuan district, for example, all belonged to different groups, and competition as well as cooperation existed between them. The world of cats might appear very leisurely and indolent, but in fact it wasn't as simple as people might have thought. They had their own problems, such as creating havoc, fighting and being confined to a territory. Of course, they also had their own beliefs. These countless groups of stray cats, of all shapes and sizes, all shared the same belief in one existence in particular, Immortal Meow. There were plenty of legends passed down about Immortal Meow, and while they sounded somewhat exaggerated, there were four which all the cats believed in, as there had been many witnesses in these cases and many of the senior stray cats could testify to them. The first legend. Immortal Meow's origin. Already many cats couldn't remember when Immortal Meow had first appeared. They only knew that it had shown up suddenly and came and went randomly. Many times it had appeared abruptly, surrounded by mist, and it impressed the cats with its immortal demeanor. As time passed, this was how the title of Immortal Meow had come to be. The second legend. Immortal Meow's performance after its appearance. This wasn't simply about the mystical way in which it showed up, but had more to do with its innate, sage-like manner and dignity. Also, almost every cat remembered the spectacular events that had accompanied its appearance. First of all, it had single-handedly swept clean the sewer system under Peiyuan district of all mice for 5,000 kilometers around, thus creating enough living space for many weak and helpless cats. Mice bred much faster than cats at a rate of more than 10 to 1, while most stray cats didn't have mates. Over time, the mice population had outnumbered the cats. If it hadn't been for Immortal Meow, the cats wouldn't have had enough space to live in, let alone to set up a base in the sewers. There was no denying that its first performance had certainly benefited the cats immensely. At that time, the Peiyuan district mice had scattered and fled, some even passing out under Immortal Meow's spiritual pressure. These were then picked up by the stray cats as food reserves. Secondly, Immortal Meow had popularized the concept of team management among the stray cats at that time. It was only because of this that stray cats now had their own home even without a shoveling officer to support them. The base which the stray cats had set up in the sewers was their home now, and it was thanks to a regulatory team management system that each and every one of them could hold their heads up and stick out their chests and completely ignore the scorn of house cats that were cared for by shoveling officers. The third thing it had done was to drive off the big dog gang in Peiyuan district which had delighted in intimidating stray cats. At that time, this gang of stray dogs led by a husky had been frightened by Immortal Meow to the point of losing their wits, and hadn't even dared to fart as they ran away. The third legend. Immortal Meow's withdrawal. After accomplishing these three things, Immortal Meow had gradually faded from the sight of the cats in Peiyuan district. The stray cats spontaneously organized all types of search efforts, with some even crouching in trees on 24/7 watch, just to catch a glimpse of it in person. Most unfortunately, their efforts had all been in vain. It had never shown up again, like Lei Feng helping an old lady cross the road and vanishing without a trace after that. But in spite of that, Immortal Meow was an unshakable presence in the hearts of all the stray cats in Peiyuan district, and this faith had even spread beyond the district. It could be said that the cultural faith practiced by stray cats in other districts had been deeply affected by the cats of Peiyuan district. Finally, the fourth legend. Immortal Meow's appearance. There were various opinions among the stray cats about what Immortal Meow looked like. Some cats thought that it was a formidable, powerful and muscular spirit cat mutant that was as tall as a human at 180 centimeters in height. There were also cats that said it was an alien robot cat from the future with a chubby blue body and a respectable red dot nose, and that the mist which surrounded Immortal Meow whenever it appeared was very likely produced by its built-in steam engine. Naturally, these guesses about its appearance were all unreliable. The senior stray cats had already determined what it looked like long ago. An old cat born with unusual pupils had once seen through that shroud of mist with its own eyes. Immortal Meow's true appearance was a black white Persian cat. Chapter 56. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Looking for Zhengtan Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Wang Ling jumped nimbly into a spirit-gathering tree and narrowed his eyes as he stared into the distance. A cat's body was very light and graceful and so was able to land with utmost gentleness. He wouldn't dare jump around casually like this as a human. However, he was also a bit unaccustomed to it. After transforming into a cat, his vision was significantly reduced. Of course, he was still more skillful in controlling this body in his shifted state than he Bufeng had been. What he Bufeng had used was merely the advanced transformation spell while Wang Ling was using one of the 3,000 great spells, the Great Transformation Spell. The effects of the two spells were similar, but the experience of each was different. A transformation using the advanced transformation spell often required a long time to practice and become familiar with, and the smaller the object, the less time the transformation would hold. On the other hand, a transformation using the Great Transformation Spell could be held for a very long time and wasn't affected by the size of the transformed object. Furthermore, a person's soul wouldn't be made uncomfortable by the transformation. Bluntly speaking, one was just from an advanced spell book and the other from the 3,000 great spells. That was the difference. Standing at the top of the spirit-gathering tree, Wang Ling spread out his spiritual senses to track down the aura of those kittens. Before, he had heard several cats mention that the cat boss in this area was called Jingtan. If he wanted to command the stray cats here, no one apart from the cat boss Jingtan would be able to rouse them into action. The management of stray cats was very strict and their rules were derived from the team management system that Wang Ling had popularized among the stray cats back then. He was somewhat surprised though that these cats were still strictly abiding by the management system long after he had left the cat world. There were always trivial squabbles over territory and natural food resources between different groups, large and small, but in times of crisis, the cats would present a very strong united front as they banded together against a common enemy. Wang Ling didn't intentionally pay attention to or care about these things. It was just that every day on his way to school, he would pick up the thoughts of the stray cats on the street corner through his mind-reading ability, so he was aware of all this. Of course, he had never thought that his casual deeds back then would actually bear such bountiful fruit. Even to the extent of playing an important role in saving the world. There was only 1 hour left to the destruction of the planet. The key to the whole thing now was finding Jingtan, and through Jingtan's strength, find Wang Ming. Perhaps no one could have imagined. The world would actually be saved by these stray cats that had been abandoned by people in the past. Back then, after popularizing the concept of team management among the stray cats and solving their living space and food issues in Peiyuan district, Wang Ling had chosen to retire. He still remembered quite a number of the cat bosses in the district, but most of them had been cat leaders from the first generation. Among them, the ones that had impressed him the most were the 3 cat tyrants called the Little Tigers. The Thunderbolt Tiger Tang Shi, the small handsome tiger Song Ci and the baby tiger Yuan Chu. These 3 cat tyrants had already become old cats who now pulled the strings behind the scenes. In light of their scale of expansion over the years, these 3 cat tyrants were probably each in charge of a cat army now. As for Jingtan, while its rank might be low, as the cat boss of the stray cats at number 59 high school, it could still be considered a leader among cats. There was a good saying that one shouldn't disregard the village chief as the cadre itself. Wang Ling didn't discriminate against the village chief, nor would he discriminate against a cat. School was already over for the day, and back among the sakura trees, there were students scattered here and there who were looking at the flowers. Wang Ling could smell the acrid scent of love in the air. Tracking the auras for a few hundred meters, he very quickly found the cats that had been rolling around under the sakura trees yesterday. These cats were all crossbreeds and had been abandoned at a very young age. Wang Ling wasn't a cat expert, and couldn't tell from just looking at their appearances what mix of breeds these cats were. But all this wasn't important. If he wanted to find Jingtan, he could only get these cats to act as his guide. He had never seen Jingtan before and didn't know what its aura was like, otherwise he could have tracked it down and directly teleported himself to its location. After some consideration, Wang Ling took the initiative to stroll toward them. As he drew closer to the cats, he again heard what they were saying in their hearts. The big cat that was the leader. Look! Here comes a girl. Second cat. Wow! It's a black dot and white Persian cat. Third cat. Its fur is really beautiful, it must be a beauty among cats. Fourth cat. Don't tell me it wants to hook up with boss. Big cat smiled. Otherwise. Beautiful cats are only compatible with the strong. Wang Ling. Damn it. He was F*** king male. He now thought it had really been a big mistake back then choosing to transform into such a beautiful Persian cat. Seeing Wang Ling walking toward it step by step, Big Cat felt that its fur was a little dirty and coarse from the rolling around it had been doing just now, so it crouched down and bent over to begin licking itself everywhere. Even its own anus didn't escape the treatment. Bloody hell, this is obviously even more coarse, okay. Wang Ling wasn't in the mood to bother too much with these cats. He stared at them and directly communicated with them telepathically. "Where is Jingtan?" When his deep voice sounded in the minds of the four cats, they instantly looked embarrassed. Bloody hell. They had gotten the gender wrong. This cat was actually male. Beto dem big cat's face was instantly full of disappointment as if it had been rejected by a female kitty. Its head drooped and it collapsed onto the ground. Why is it male? Dot. Do you ***king need to be so sad about it? Besides, this isn't the point at all, hey. The point is, where is Jingtan? Wang Ling felt that these cats' nerves were shit. They had actually completely ignored the fact that he had spoken to them telepathically. Big Cat lifted its paws weakly and said sadly, "There is no point to the life of a cat without a beauty to accompany it." Wang Ling was utterly speechless. Fortunately, he had made preparations beforehand. A spirit light flashed on the ground, then several salted fish flavored crispy noodle snack packets appeared. These were all Wang Ling had. He had initially intended to secretly enjoy them at midnight and there was no one else around. Wow! Limited edition salted fish flavored crispy noodle snack. The eyes of the cat suddenly lit up. Big Cat rolled and jumped to its feet, and unrestrainedly rubbed Wang Ling's head with its paws. "Ha ha ha. Brother, you're very clever. Since you've asked us so sincerely, I'll take you to boss." This cat really changed face faster than flipping through a book. Wang Ling sighed in his heart. It was said that stray cats were all foodies, which turned out to indeed be true. Seeing this big cat put the 3 limited edition crispy noodle snack packets into the cosmic space on the belly band it was wearing, his heart bled. At the same time, he also had some misgivings about how the cat world currently worked. He hadn't expected these low-level cadres to actually begin openly accepting bribes just a few years after his withdrawal. This matter had to be strictly dealt with and required serious reorganization. After about 5 minutes, with the 4 cats taking the lead, Wang Ling entered a small, unremarkable opening in a corner of the sakura tree garden. This entry was fully blocked by 2 thick and solid sakura trees, and was very difficult to find from the viewpoint of a human. After entering the small opening, he found himself on a residential lane. On the east side of the lane was a street sign that said Dahuang Road. Following Big Cat, he came to an old willow tree with a trunk so wide that 5 or 6 people holding hands around it still wouldn't be enough to completely encircle its girth. This tree had put down roots here for at least several hundred years. The rumor was that it had been struck by lightning before, but it hadn't fallen and still towered firm and upright. The cats climbed adeptly to the top of the tree, then turned to look at Wang Ling. They then turned their gazes in the direction of a very small tree hole. Jingtan's stray cat base was in that hole. Chapter 57. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Jingtan's Independent Regiment Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Wang Ling jumped effortlessly to the top of the tree and lay prone to look at the small tree hole for a long time. He could feel the endless space inside the tree hole and immediately knew that it had been expanded using space expansion technology. This also proved that cat boss Jingtan absolutely wasn't unintelligent, otherwise it wouldn't have ever thought to open up the space. Big Cat proudly told Wang Ling that back then, Jingtan had spent a lot of energy opening up this space. It wasn't Jingtan who had originally thought of the plan, though, but the old willow tree which had already been here for 300 years. According to Big Cat, back then the spiritual energy of heaven and earth had converged to open the old willow to spiritual wisdom. In the process of reaching the tribulation transcendent stage, a lightning bolt had struck and pierced the body of the tree, which unexpectedly and inadvertently stimulated the old willow's vitality. Jingtan using the secret tree hole was also the old willow's idea. It took 100 years to cultivate a person and it was too lonely in existence, so to be surrounded by several companions was always good. How often does this spirit tree wake up? Wang Ling looked at Big Cat as he asked telepathically. You must call him Mr. Shu. Big Cat corrected him. Mr. Shu sleeps for quite a long time and only wakes up in the evening. His surname is Zhou. Wang Ling. Zhou. Shu, Ren. Wang Ling followed the cats and jumped into the tree hole. It was like moving through a space tunnel, and after a change in light and shadow, he finally saw the huge space inside. Just like the secret bases in movies and TV series, the whole space was neatly sectioned off and put to proper use. He saw several cats in white gowns walk past together balancing 2 books on their heads. Big Cat introduced them. They're the research team in Boss Zhengtan's group. Then, Wang Ling saw dozens of sparrows wearing small goggles pecking corn harmoniously in a nearby corn field. They're our regiment's aerial company. After that, Big Cat pointed to several cats ahead of them wearing black face towels. These ninja cats belong to the spy company. The cavalry company trains independently at a secret base outside the tree hole. Wang Ling asked telepathically, please tell me, what is your regiment called? Big Cat pointed to a small stone tablet to one side of the base which had words scrawled on it in human language. Independent Regiment. Wang Ling looked at the stone tablet for a moment. While he was still stunned, Big Cat pointed to the stone tablet again and said, behind this stone tablet is an inscription by Mr. Shu Ren. Wang Ling took a curious look and saw that the back of the stone tablet had been engraved with 2 poems. On the left. I coolly defy Sazi. With fierce brows, yo. On the right. I am willing to bow my head to be a Yair. Yo. Wang Ling was completely stunned. From the overall layout of the space and arrangement of teams, it had to be said that Zhengtan was a very intelligent cat. A cavalry company, a spy company and even an air force composed of sparrows. It was simply incredible. The space inside the willow was very large and the space expansion skill used was the most common type and nothing spectacular. However, this primitive space expansion skill had been able to extend the space of a small tree hole to the size of a person's living room. For these cats, the space was already enough. Zhengtan's regiment office was in the deepest part of the base. Big Cat guided Wang Ling to the door of the office, then had several of its kitten underlings wait together with him at the door as it looked at him and said, brother, wait a moment, I'll go in to report first. In less than 5 minutes, Zhengtan strode out of the room. It had black, shiny fur and pointed ears, there was even a decorative copper bell on its tail that jingled as Zhengtan walked, highlighting its might as the commander of this independent regiment. Wang Ling was certain that it must have been groomed by the thunderbolt tiger Tang Shi, only cats groomed by Tang Shi would have this kind of ruffian air about them. From the faint smell of its breath, it was not difficult for Wang Ling to guess that it had been enjoying its dinner. Furthermore, it was a spicy seafood-flavored hot pot. When Zhengtan saw the Persian cat, it couldn't help narrowing its heterochromatic eyes. To be able to sit in the position of commander of the regiment, it was obviously much more sensitive to this Persian cat than the lascivious Big Cat. Because the legendary Immortal Meow was also a Persian cat. Whether it was Tang Shi, Song Ci or Yuan Chu, they had all ordered the cadres in their respective areas to be on the lookout especially for this cat breed and to inspect them with caution. But Immortal Meow had retired a very long time ago. Zhengtan had frequently searched nearby areas from time to time, but with no results to show for it. Now, suddenly hearing from Big Cat that a Persian cat was looking for it had been a shock. No way. This couldn't be a coincidence, right? It hadn't even finished chewing the spicy fish balls in its mouth before it ran outside. It looked carefully at the Persian cat in front of it, then saw that this cat was sitting cross-legged and floating gently in the air. Back then, Immortal Meow had opened the stray cats to spiritual wisdom, but had only imparted to them some simple foundation establishment body training methods. It hadn't taught any of the stray cats immortal spells. A Persian cat that was able to use the suspension spell. Furthermore, wisps of mist hung in the air around it. Nothing else needed to be said, Zheng Tan knew the identity of this Persian cat. Zheng Tan. Big cat. Wow. Bro, awesome magic trick. Zheng Tan really wanted to smack this idiotic guy next to it to death. F***K you're awesome. This is Immortal Meow. You retard. I'm Immortal Meow. Big Cat's tongue was knotted with fear. Zheng Tan narrowed its eyes, it didn't need to guess, it knew this guy had probably made some King trouble again. Boss, I really didn't know. I took 3 salted fish. Flavored crispy noodle snack packets. Trembling, Big Cat stretched out its paws and took the snacks out from its belly band. Zheng Tan smacked Big Cat's head with one paw. This git really can't accomplish anything, but can spoil everything. Lustful and greedy. F***K cut your bonus. Deduct your salary. You're not going to get any year-end bonus dried fish. How can my own chief of staff be such a witless idiot? Ah. F***K it. Zheng Tan slapped one paw to its face, too angry to speak. Wang Ling picked up the crispy noodle snacks from the ground and instantly felt better. He got straight to the point, stretching out one paw to draw Wang Ming's portrait on the ground and at the same time telling Zheng Tan his request telepathically. He hadn't used this space sketching skill since winning a national art competition as a kid, as it was really too eye-catching. Zheng Tan nodded, then looked back at its chief of staff that was lying repentantly on the ground with its paws on its ears. De Biao, you dumbass. It's time for you to redeem yourself. While speaking, Zheng Tan kicked Big Cat to its feet. Notify Battalions 1, 2, and 3, the Cavalry, the Spy Battalion, and the Air Force. Relying on favorable terrain, go out and do a thorough search of number 59 High School. Chapter 58 You are listening at novelfull.audio. 2nd Battalion Commander. You son of a b***tch. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. It could be said that the team management system for all stray cats originated in Peiyuan District. After years of expansion, there were now more than 1,000 stray cat groups, of all shapes and sizes, in Peiyuan District alone. The 3 famous cat army generals, Tang Shi, Song Ci, and Yuan Chu, each managed their own division. The army consisted of 3 divisions, each division consisted of 3 brigades, and each brigade consisted of 3 regiments. Looking at the scale of development in Zheng Tan's independent regiment, it could absolutely be called a star regiment. And once the entire regiment heard this order and moved out, the scene and scale of this operation was truly jaw-dropping. The old willow in the alley was one of Zheng Tan's main headquarters. It was in turn supported by more than 10 secret bases, large and small, that had been set up all over number 59 High School's school grounds. However, most of them were hidden inside the willow hole. Now the troops came pouring out all at once. Just the air sparrows alone numbered more than 1,000. In the sky, they looked like a mighty and aggressive swarm of locusts. Along with the rest of the cavalry, the spy battalion, and normal battalions. Including every military branch, Zheng Tan's independent regiment added up to more than 10,000 soldiers. Their strength was almost on par with a military division. Under the cover of night, the independent regiment sparrows came out in full force and filled the whole sky above number 59 High School. Stray cats showed up in the grass, in the treetops and in every corner of the school grounds. Looking at this sight, Wang Ling couldn't help drawing in a sharp breath. Fortunately, it was already after school, it would be impossible for such a bustle to go unnoticed otherwise, and it would very likely become a hot topic of discussion the next day. The old uncle patrolling the school grounds couldn't help knitting his brows when he realized that there were more stray cats around the school than usual today. 3 to 4 cats on average sat around on each of the tens of benches in the school. Some of the kittens were even publicly engaging in a certain indescribable activity, which flustered the old guard and made him blush. Given that spring was animal mating season, the old uncle didn't interrupt their pistoning motions. Inspecting his surroundings and finding nobody suspicious, he turned off his flashlight and left under the moonlight. In fact, these cats were extras that had been employed by Zheng Tan to draw the patrolling guard's attention. The real troops were all well hidden. As soon as the old guard left, countless pairs of gleaming eyes opened in the grass. Cats had sharp night vision, they were swift, nimble and smart, and they made no sound at all as they jumped out of the grass. The operation was progressing more smoothly than anticipated. The commander-in-chief of this operation was Zheng Tan, and the lieutenant commander was a short-tail cat with black spots. Since it was a little bald, Zheng Tan had nicknamed it the Monk. It was Battalion 1's commander, and also one of Zheng Tan's most outstanding cat soldiers to date. In Battalion 1, the Monk soldiers had a very specific impression of it, that it was smart as a whip. Previously, Wang Ling had only enlightened the 3 cat tyrants, the little tigers. It was these 3 cats, Tang Shi, Song Ci and Yuan Chu, that had taught the rest of the stray cats and enabled them to advance to this point. Of course, Wang Ling was not the first person to have opened a stray cat to spiritual wisdom. Plenty of cultivators had helped their pets achieve spiritual enlightenment, whether they were hamsters, centipedes, tortoises, rabbits, picachus. Any pet you could think of would have been covered. It was worth mentioning that the monk had also been born with a very high IQ. When Zheng Tan had been grooming the monk back then, it had been very easy and had cost Zheng Tan no effort at all. As soon as it had been born, the monk had taught itself junior skills such as catching a mouse. Now, after enlightenment, the monk could use its wits and intelligence to play tens of dogs easily in the palm of its hand. The monk stood calmly on the command platform from where the physical education teachers usually directed students in exercising. A moment later, the cats from Battalion 1 which had been dispatched to carry out the search all returned. Results. Several of the battalion leaders meowed at the monk for a while. The monk's whiskers twitched slightly. The classrooms, corridors, and offices on each story were searched, correct. Then, it was a very clear conclusion. There was only the gymnasium left. Why would a man run to the gym in the middle of the night? To peep at schoolgirls as they trained, and in the end get himself locked in. Bloody hell, what kind of weird fetish did this man have? As a cat already disillusioned with society, the monk's scorn for him was already beyond words. But Immortal Meow was looking for this person, so it didn't have much to say. Wang Ling had always thought that the stray cats had potential. Although they appeared all alone without shoveling officers to care for them, as long as they banded together, they could produce incredible results. Back then, uniting these scattered stray cats had just been a casual idea. Who would have thought that the seeds which Wang Ling had unintentionally sown would grow into lush willows that were now coming in handy? There was now less than half an hour left. Wang Ling could feel the talisman seal deteriorating even further. Now more than ever, he didn't dare make any big moves, for fear that his aura would be like prehistoric powers flowing out of control. Fortunately, news came to Zheng Tan very quickly. A sparrow immediately brought back investigation results from the front line. Zheng Tan nodded and looked at Wang Ling. Immortal Meow, the location has been confirmed, he's inside the gym. The gym. Given how strong his spiritual senses were, it was impossible that Wang Ling wasn't able to infiltrate the gym with his spirit. Hence, he believed the people who had kidnapped Wang Ming weren't using a simple magic weapon. At the very least, it had to contain the same material which his talisman seal was made from, creating a dead zone for his spiritual senses. But now that the location had been confirmed, the rest would be simple. Shortly after that, Wang Ling and Zheng Tan arrived at the front doors of the gym, which were shut. A sparrow perched atop the skylight of the gym pinpointed Wang Ming's specific location. This guy was in the women's locker room. Wang Ling and Zheng Tan moved around to the back of the gym and stopped in front of a thick wall. The entire gym had been constructed out of black crystal. It was so solid that it wouldn't crumble via normal methods of demolition. Of course, if the talisman seal had been functioning normally, Wang Ling could have torn down the wall effortlessly. But the situation now was a little unique, and since the talisman seal was about to expire, he was afraid one punch from him would cause widespread destruction for hundreds of li around the gym. After some thought, Wang Ling didn't make a move, and just turned his eyes to Jing Tan instead. Jing Tan was instantly filled with awe. Of course it wasn't doubting Immortal Miao's prowess. How could a mere wall stump Immortal Miao? Jing Tan thought that Immortal Miao was clearly giving it a chance to prove itself. Right away it got excited, and it turned around to Miao loudly, "2nd Battalion Commander. 2nd Battalion Commander, you son of a B*TCH, where is the Yidali cannon? Bring it here and blast a hole in this damn wall." Wang Ling. Chapter 59. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yidali Research Bureau for Unique Artifacts Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations Huaxiao Nations, Yidali, Research Bureau for Unique Artifacts. This was a renowned place in Huaxiao Nation that specialized in studying unique magic artifacts. The head of the institute was a cultivation ammunitions expert from Mi Nation called Billy, nicknamed King Billy. The team led by King Billy had been riding high on the results of their research in the last few years as they made significant breakthroughs in scientific theory as well as technological research, surpassing all other unique artifacts research departments. Though the name Yidali Research Bureau for Unique Artifacts had been registered for a very long time, it had only started to make its mark in the last 2 years. All the magic artifacts researched by King Billy's team possessed 3 characteristics that could be summed up in 3 different Chinese characters which together read as Yidali. First, E meant surprise. Most of the artifacts which King Billy's team researched possessed this distinctive characteristic. Each one would always dazzle or surprise the people handling them. Secondly, De. This word didn't just refer to an artifact's immense impact, but also to the large number of times it could be used. A magic artifact could typically only be used 3 times before the distinctive magic halo which each artifact possessed vanished. However, each of the unique artifacts researched by King Billy could be used at least 10 times. Finally, Li. This word also had a double meaning. On one hand, it was Li from Bien.li, meaning that the magic artifacts were convenient and easy to use. On the other hand, Li was also the second Chinese character in King Billy's name. The research institute's name thus had a really profound meaning. In the last few years, King Billy's team had developed quite a few unique artifacts that were very easy to use. Among them, the one that sold like hot cakes was that Yidali cannon. Yidali cannon, maximum number of use. 10. Application. This product can be used against any strongholds, and can easily blast through hard matter like black iron and black crystal. Directions for use. This product is operated by voice control, and should only be used against buildings. At the first yell of fire, the cannon will automatically take aim at the target and determine the trajectory. At the second yell of fire, the mouth of the cannon will automatically heat up and gather power. At the third yell of fire, the Yunlong missile in the bore will be fired. In the presence of a commander-in-chief and a 2nd Battalion commander, the Yunlong missile's damage output will automatically increase by 20%. If there is a woman present inside the building under attack, the damage output will increase by 10%, to a maximum output of 100%. Back in the beginning, these instruction guidelines for the Yidali cannon had been the talk of the town. Truly, the most mystical thing about this unique artifact was how its damage output was passively increased through identity verification and the number of women present. Some people said that King Billy was the first person to perfectly decode unique artifacts, because he was unique himself. Because the products designed by King Billy's team were all somewhat odd. The Yidali cannon was a hot product, but it wasn't cheap. It was used mostly by demolition teams since it was illegal for normal cultivators and the general populace to own them. As for Zheng Tan's Yidali cannon, of course it hadn't bought it. Wan Ling had discovered from Zheng Tan's memories that roughly 6 months ago, it had seized this number 59 high school territory from the former boss, Shan Pao. Shan Pao was a Bichon phrase sexual maniac that had been able to gain spiritual intelligence because it was a crossbreed that possessed the blood of spirit dogs. When Zheng Tan had fought Shan Pao for the territory in the beginning, it had spared no effort in doing so. With the battalion commanders under its command, it had struggled bitterly for a long time before finally claiming the territory. The Yidali cannon was part of Zheng Tan's spoils of war after it had overrun Shan Pao's headquarters back then. To this day, it was still a mystery how Shan Pao had acquired this unique artifact. Wan Ling felt that the reason behind how such a destructive artifact had fallen into the hands of a group of intelligent animals was a little complex. These stray cats respected their immortal meow, when he had taught them back then. Apart from popularizing the concept of team management, he had also provided mental and emotional counsel. Wan Ling had no idea how stray cats elsewhere treated humans, but in Peiyuan district at least, the stray cats led their own lives but were also able to live in harmony with humans. There were even large groups of righteous cats that would escort ladies walking home alone at night in case there were no good lowlifes around. He was thus very confident that the cats he had trained would never act against humans. However, if these unique artifacts were to fall into the hands of animals who were just as intelligent, but happened to have dark hearts, who knew what the consequences would be? Seeing a black cat and its subordinates slowly push a cannon just the size of a shopping basket out from where it had been hidden in a mound of grass was a little strange. This Yidali cannon would easily blast a hole in this wall of black crystal without destroying the rest of the building. Of course, Wan Ling had thought about using Jinka, but it was too much like him as a sword spirit. It was still too young to have experienced much of the world yet, and was clueless about how to control its strength. Wan Ling was afraid that with one stroke, Jinka would cut the gym in half. Therefore, his only hope was this Yidali cannon, which had been designed by King Billy's team. At this time, Wan Ling couldn't make any extraordinary movements. He even had to keep his breathing steady, for fear of what could happen now that the talisman seal was weakening. A sneeze at this moment could kill people. However, he could still help out with some simple support spells. Number 59 High School's old guard hadn't left, and the sound of the Yidali cannon firing was bound to draw his attention, so Wan Ling cast a soundproof barrier. Putting on protection goggles, Zheng Tan stood by the Yidali cannon, hands on its slender waist. 2nd Battalion Commander, are you ready? Ready, Regiment Commander. Nodding its head, Zheng Tan placed its small paw on the sensor pad and confirmed its identity as Regiment Commander. Then, the muzzle of the cannon followed the direction of Zheng Tan's gaze as it pointed at a specific point on the wall. Fire! 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 After 3 world-shattering shouts of fire. With a bang! A streak of heavenly light shot out from the cannon's muzzle. In just an instant, a waist-high hole was blasted in the wall. In the women's locker room, Wang Ming was instantly awakened by this massive boom. Meanwhile, Jiang Luiying stood stupefied as she looked at the scene outside the hole with a stunned and pale face. On the other end of the wristwatch, a woman's voice sounded. I heard an explosion on your end. What's going on? Jiang Luiying's mouth twitched. Sis. I seem to be surrounded by a bunch of cats. Chapter 60 You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. She's hiding weapons of mass destruction. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. It wasn't just Jiang Luiying and Wang Ming who were stunned as they stared at the hole in the wall, even the woman on the other end of the phone call was dumbstruck. Obviously, words alone were utterly unable to describe and directly convey the impact and shock of the scene in front of their eyes. What Jiang Luiying saw was a black cat with protection goggles on and one hand resting on a battery pack at its waist as it stared at her. Everywhere around this black cat were cats as far as the eye could see. On the ground, in the trees. There were even ninja cats wearing black, hanging on the wall. Furthermore, Jiang Luiying realized that most of them were standing on 2 feet. Bloody hell! If they had wings, wouldn't they be an all-mighty species? Had they been possessed by Happy? In the last few years, there were plenty of pets that had achieved spiritual enlightenment, but they were all strictly regulated by Huaxiao Nation's quarantine department. With this huge gathering of spiritually enlightened stray cats, some even wielding a terrifying Yadali cannon. Jiang Luiying felt that this scope and power were comparable to a small-scale demon rampage. The reason why the gate between worlds was so frightening lay not just in the catastrophic might of the demons, but more in their organization and discipline. Each time the demons invaded the earth from the gate between worlds, it was always after they had already talked it over and settled on an invasion plan. The current situation was far beyond Jiang Luiying's expectations. This was obviously a premeditated rescue operation. And the party executing this rescue operation was actually a bunch of cats. The woman on the other end of the phone call sounded baffled. "Are you still asleep?" "Sis, I'm really not joking. Believe it or not, I've really been surrounded by a bunch of cats." "Oh, no, a troop of cats. Especially the black cat that's their leader, it's staring at me with lust. Hey, F*** King hell, you dare to defame this father." On the other end of the phone call, the woman went quiet. After an enigmatic silence, she spoke once again. "I think there really is something wrong with your brain. Are you not feeling like yourself right now? Why don't we cancel the mission this time?" "Sis, let me explain." Jiang Luiying spluttered at her elder sister's words. Without waiting for her to continue, the woman on the other end went on to say, "To be on the safe side, I'll give you half an hour to return." After saying this, the woman directly ended the call, leaving Jiang Luiying no opportunity to explain the situation as she stood in front of the troop of cats with a dumbfounded look on her face. After staring blankly for a while, she finally rolled up her sleeves and pouted at this bunch of cats. "You puny gits, do you think this grand aunt is afraid of you?" She was formidable, and different from most golden core cultivators. With one glance, Wang Ling's radar-like eyes had seen through to her true strength. She was a rare cultivator with 2 golden cores. They lay in her Dantian region, and together, made her 10 times stronger than a cultivator at the peak golden core stage. The oppressive force generated by the girl's anger was very obvious. Even if it was only a small wave of emotion, it was enough to make Wang Ming's cheeks ripple. Although enlightened, Zheng Tan was only a cat at the foundation establishment stage at best. The oppressive force which the girl had generated was already enough to make its black fur stand on end. Similarly, the entire division of cats behind it all looked like hedgehogs with their fur sticking up. All of a sudden, a bald cat burst out of the crowd and snarled, "Watch out, Regiment Commander." Battalion 1's commander, the monk, threw itself at Zheng Tan. Even some of the cat guards behind it followed its action and also threw themselves one after another at Zheng Tan. Honestly speaking, Zheng Tan was very moved since they were protecting it, after all. But it almost suffocated under tens of cats suddenly piling on top of it and pinning it down. "What on earth are you doing?" With a sour face, Zheng Tan popped its black head out from deep within the pile of cats. "Protecting the boss, be careful of her." Chest, several cats cried out in unison. The monk nodded. "This woman's chest is much bigger than that of a normal human woman's, so I highly suspect it contains weapons of mass destruction. Zheng Tan. Wang Ling. Even Wang Ming gasped, stunned by these cats speaking human language and astonished at how fluent they were. As the most powerful brain in Huaxiao Nation, he could broadly estimate how intelligent these cats were. The black cat that was the leader had the highest IQ, and the bald cat next to it had the second highest IQ. For animals, Wang Ming felt that their IQs were possibly higher than a regular human's. Of course, there was no way that their IQs would surpass his. Wang Ming looked at the girl. "Hey, elder sister, haven't you noticed?" Jiang Luiying had a blank look on her face, and for the first time, Wang Ling and Wang Ming, these two brothers at odds, shared a tacit understanding. There was a saying, big breasts and no brains. Looking at it now, it really wasn't an unreasonable saying. Elder sister, with your realm, you can crush a golden core cultivator with one hand. But haven't you noticed that your oppressive force isn't the least bit of use at the moment? These cats may have spiritual intelligence, but they're not that powerful. Yet now, even under your oppressive force, they're still so lively. This time, realization suddenly hit the girl as beads of sweat started to form on her small, fair face. She should have noticed it earlier. This bunch of kiddies, along with this man who had no spirit energy at all, should have been immobilized under her oppressive force. But these cats were actually still frolicking around. Taking every factor into consideration, the girl could think of only one possibility. There was a nature-defying person here with a more formidable realm than hers. Only such a person could exert an impact on the fluctuations of her oppressive force and prevent it from taking effect from the start, like suddenly blocking the mouth of a dam. Who the hell was it? Jiang Luiying's gaze swept swiftly over the horde of cats, and at the same time she bombarded them with her spiritual senses, trying her best to detect a particular aura among them. At this moment, it seemed that the girl's brain power had finally caught up, and she began to suspect that there was something fishy about these cats. For example, a master could have used the transformation spell or something like an illusion technique to sneak into their midst. If this really was the case, it was sometimes possible to pick the person out by carefully distinguishing the auras. However, this ability to identify auras only applied if there was a minor gap in realms between the two individuals in question. To be honest, if there had been time, Wang Ling would certainly have calmly played with the girl for a while. But now was not the time for hide-and-seek. There were only 10 minutes left before the end of the world. Thus, under Jiang Luiying's utterly stunned gaze, a black and white Persian cat strolled elegantly through this large crowd of cats, which conscientiously parted to give way to it. So this was the cat. The girl was instantly vigilant, but just as she was about to call up her spirit energy, this Persian cat released a strong power which pressed down on her. Then, the girl was shocked to realize that her spirit energy had only moved halfway, and was actually stuck in her dantian. What was more, she found herself in the grip of an oppressive force, completely immobilized. This Persian cat. Was it a freak?